So, I finally caught up with the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, and chapter 227 is here finally. So, we need to really talk about every event that's happening right now, especially the Gojo versus Sukuna fight that is hyping up everyone, kinda. But let's just see how this is going. Let's start with the recap and breakdown and come up with our own theories on this channel. So, before we begin, if you could subscribe to this channel because I am going to talk about every Shonen Jump manga in a weekly manner. So, if you don't want to miss out on that, subscribe, especially One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Black Clover. So we pick up after the ending of the last previous chapter, and everyone is kinda shocked on how Gojo is using reverse curse technique to replenish his present curse technique, which should be impossible because using reverse curse technique actually heals a physical form. But this happening is like really an impossible thing. Yuta wanted to say it's impossible, but seeing Gojo Satoru doing that, I mean, the fact that he's actually doing that shocks everyone, including Yuta. But of course, no one is really sure what he is doing. But if in case he is doing that, Yuta says that he's doing something really unbelievable, which proves that Satoru Gojo is the strongest sorcerer of the modern age. And as if they are brothers, Gojo and Sukuna stop fighting again and are smiling and they're talking about it. And Gojo is like, I know that you can actually expand your, effective area, and why don't you actually do that? And Sukuna also smiles in response. Here's another weird thing. It should be impossible for Gojo to start his new domain expansion again after his other one was cancelled out. So when Sukuna actually is going to use his malevolent shrine, Gojo actually does the infinite void again and he uses his domain expansion, and everyone is shocked because he changes the characteristic of infinite void. He literally changes the rules of his own domain expansion on a whim. But this version of Infinite Void, this domain expansion, is actually way better than the previous one because the previous one could have been attacked from the outside, but this one can't be as it isn't breaking this time. And everyone notices that while Kusakabe is in the background and he's just like, it's kind of unfair that Gojo can change the rules of his domain that easily, and that's why he is the strongest sorcerer too. Then we see a quick montage of Sukuna and Gojo, trading blows, and that's what kind of confuses me. But I guess when it's animated, it would be really smooth to see some hand to hand combat, so I'm not actually complaining. So it kind of looks like Sukuna isn't holding back too because it looks like he can use both domain expansion and domain amplification at the same time, which is also kind of impossible, and Gojo notices this easily. But Gojo also notices another thing that Sukuna turned off is sure it setting in this domain expansion because he wants to use his speed to get near Gojo and touch him or make Gojo touch him, which will in fact break his own thing because the only weakness to Infinite Void is is Gojo himself and him those he touches. And so, for the second time that day, Gojo's infinite, the domain expansion is broken again once more by Sukuna. And of course, there won't be any other chance that he's going to use domain expansion again, right? Because Gojo isn't a fool, right? Right? After seeing this failure kind of moves from Gojo, even Hajime is like, if he dies, I am going next and no one should stop me because Hajime actually thinks that he can take on Sukuna and actually win. But I'm kind of curious on how the story will go forward and if Gojo is going to die in the story. Gojo comes out unscathed by, Sukuna's blade's power, and it seems that he is using the falling blossom emotion. Everyone doesn't know what that is. Even Panda is confused, and Kusakabe explains that it's a secret and that the main three head families can actually use it, the royal families. So it's kind of different, but he doesn't know how Gojo is using it, and it's kind of impossible that he has this power. There are negativity to this kind of domain expansion, but of course Gojo uses this kind of domain expansion for the third time, and this time he makes this domain even larger, and everyone's kind of confused because it kind of gives him a disadvantage of distance because the larger the domain, the weaker it gets. So everyone's kind of confused, but it looks like Gojo actually changed the rules to, make himself positive in this manner. And even Kusakabe again notes out that it's kind of unfair that he can do this on a whim. But suddenly Hajime and the others actually notice something, and that is that the domain, which was supposed to be larger, is actually growing smaller and smaller until it's the tine of his. I think it's the size of a tiny ball because that's what it looks like in the image. Of course, I won't know the size thing, but it's really tiny, and it looks like both Gojo and Sukuna are inside that small thing, and they are like in the size of atoms fighting to death. We don't know anything until the next chapter comes. So that was all that happened in this chapter, guys. That is in chapter 227. So based on the previous chapters, I can say that maybe this certain arc or this certain fight between Gojo and Sukuna can last like 4 or 5 more chapters according to the previous chapter numbers. That's all I can say because that's how short a story arc is. Or maybe it could be really long like the Shibuya incident, but this Culling Games arc is one of the interesting things, and I so far have liked every single fight in this story. Even the minority ones such as Hajime fights were amazing. So I really like how this story is going. I love the art, but one thing that I really hate about Jujutsu Kaisen is that it has so many words like domain amplification, domain expansion, reverse curse technique. I don't really understand any of that. And that's kind of because I binge read most of it. I guess I might have forgotten so many things, so it's kind of confusing when you look about it. So I don't really know how to read the story properly, but I know that now that I'm reading it weekly, I'll be getting better in this kind of videos. Even though it looks like Gojo might be winning, I still believe in the theory that Gojo will die in this fight and Sukuna will become even stronger, kind of motivating Yuji to stand up and become the main character that he always was and show what he, as the protagonist, will do to stop Sukuna because he literally started this entire story and he has to pay up for his sins too. I guess this is going to be a really, really dark story and it won't have the happy ending that anyone really wished for. I think the only one that's going to be alive is Megumi, not anyone else. So it's going to be confusing. I really don't know how forward they're going to take the story, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm kind of happy that they're not going with the same flow that they did with other series such as Naruto. So what is this story? And yes, I will be seeing you guys in my next video. Till then, sayonara guys, chan out, and also yes, subscribe for more Shonen Jump content.